friends, welcome to today's video. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to review some new drugstore products. We've got some products from CoverGirl. We've got a few from L'Oreal. I've kind of thrown them all into today's video, so let's go ahead and get started. As you can already tell, I have the majority of my makeup done. I've got my foundation, concealer, my setting powder under the eyes, and my brows complete. I still need to do the bronzer, blush, and highlight portion of my routine, which is where the CoverGirl brand comes into play today. CoverGirl recently launched some new blush, contour, and highlight sticks. These are the True Blend Skin Enhancer Contour Balms, the True Blend Skin Enhancer Blush Balm, and the Skin Enhancer Pearl Highlight Balm. So I've got one in each category to review, share my thoughts with you, apply, and see how I like it, and tell you whether or not they're actually worth the purchase. I'm going to start with the Contour Balm, which is the next step of my routine once I've got this portion complete. So on the CoverGirl website, it says it's 4 cool-toned contour shades to add instant depth and dimension to your face by mimicking the look of natural shadows. So there's 4 shades in the contour, there's 4 shades in the blush balm, and 2 shades in the highlighter balms. The shade that I chose is called Sculpted, and I believe that's the second shade in this range. And as you can see, it is a stick form. You twist it up to pull up the product as you use it. And I have not swatched or tried this product yet, so let's go ahead and get started. Before I apply this to my face today, I wanted to show you the swatch of the product. This is the shade called Sculpted. I will be using my e.l.f. Dual Complexion Brush. I feel like this is a small brush to keep the product specific to certain areas. When it comes to bronzer and contour, you kind of want to keep it in certain areas. So I'm going to start on one side of my face and see how this sort of blends. Let's go and do the forehead area. You typically would kind of draw it on and then blend it out. Because I'm not sure if the formula is easy to blend, if it dries down pretty quickly, I'm going to work in sections. So I'm going to start by just kind of doing a tapping motion to blend this into the skin. And it doesn't seem like it's something that's difficult to blend. I'm not sure if I let this sit for a little bit and continue talking, if that's going to change the blend on this product. But if you just apply it and go straight into blending, I think it's going to be okay. And I thought this shade might be a little too dark, but honestly, I think it's going to work for kind of, honestly, sculpting and giving me a bronze look because it's not as cool tone as I thought it was going to be. I think the lightest shade, which is more geared towards more fair or very fair skin, that one I think has a little bit more gray in it. This one is just still cool tone, but it's not as great looking. Okay, so that kind of blended out nicely, and let me take a look at my forehead and see how that looks over my foundation. And it does leave a little bit of a glow just because it's a balmy texture. It's not a cream, it's not matte, but it isn't overly shimmery, dewy. There is no shimmer in this product. It's just that kind of balmy texture to it. It doesn't seem super emollient if I look at the swatch here, but there is a little bit where you can see the light sort of bounces off just ever so slightly on this product. So keep that in mind that it is more on the emollient side, in case that's a texture and finish that you like or actually want to avoid. So let's go ahead and try to do a little bit of a contour. Let's just start with a little bit because this does have quite a bit of pigment. And again, same brush, stippling motion. I do feel like it's kind of grabbing right in this spot right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sponge and just see if I can move that a little bit better and try to blend that out. Seems like it's doing okay. I do think that the pigment, even though it seems like it's quite intense, once you blend this out, it's a little bit more sheer. And I think that could be a good thing, especially for something that's supposed to be a contour. And I think for me personally, since I don't contour every single day, I don't want something so drastic and so intense because it just looks obvious if you don't blend it well enough. You're going to see it. And then if it has a lot of gray in it, that can be borderline unnatural, even though the contour is supposed to have a coolness to it, which is more of a gray tone. Some brands do it right and then others don't. This does look like it kind of contoured a little bit, but it doesn't look too gray and it doesn't look unnatural for me, at least in my opinion. So let's go ahead and do the other side and just kind of swipe. And when you do swipe this, there is a slight pull to the skin. It's not as creamy and it doesn't glide as much as you probably think, thinking the balm in the name. There is a little bit of a pull, but it's not bad. It does apply pretty easily, but it's something to note that you will feel it just a little bit kind of tugging the skin. Let's go ahead and do some out here a little bit. Like I said, I don't really do this very often, so I think here is just gonna be a tiny little bit just to kind of create that lifted effect to the eye area. And blend it out. Same brush. You can honestly, if you have this brush, flip it over and use that small side to do this. Same thing on the other side. And we might as well try using this to contour the nose. Most people will probably go directly with the product, and you can try, even though it's a bit of a wider kind of rounded point to this product, you have to try to be careful with it because it is quite big. You don't want to get on the sides of your nose. So I think honestly the best thing to do is take a small brush, swipe it across this, and then apply the contour where you want it on the nose. But I'm already all in, so I might as well continue what I'm doing here today. Thankfully, it's blending out quite easily on my nose. And then you can just use your fingers to tap that out and continue blending. You want that to be as seamless as possible. You don't want to see that there was anything there, and you just want it to look like a natural shadow. And you can also take the small side of a brush and kind of bring this up towards the brow. Actually, I should have blended it out initially with this side. My first impressions, I do like how this product blended out. I like that CoverGirl's branching out and creating something different. I don't know if they've ever had a contour stick or blush sticks, highlight sticks ever. Maybe so, years past, but it's good to see that they're coming out with products that we are seeing from a lot of other brands and giving us a good version of it. And this is a vegan formula as well, as what it says on the back. I also like the packaging. That typical component is what you will find in many stick products, but I like that soft touch matte and then the accent of that metallic ring around the bottom part of it. And it just seems so nice, and honestly, a little bit more elevated for packaging when it comes to the CoverGirl brand. I think that this feels a little bit more, I don't want to say luxurious, but a little bit more elevated from what we've come to see from this brand. So I do think that this is pretty decent. I think I want to add just a hint more bronze to the skin, and for that I'm going to go with one of my favorites from the drugstore. It's the L'Oreal Infallible Pressed Bronzer. I'm just going to do a light dusting of this just to kind of add a little bit more warmth to my skin, ever so slightly. I'm just tapping my brush once and then just kind of going across and just adding a little bit more of that sort of goldeny warmth that this product has versus the coolness that comes off of the stick that I just used from CoverGirl. Next up is the blush Balm. There are 4 shades, as I mentioned earlier, in the blush sticks. I chose to go with something a little different. I typically, if you know me, probably would have thought I'm going to choose one of the pinky tones. They do have one that's like a bright pink that I may try if I like the formula. I decided to try this shade called Sweet Violet. It looks like it could be very purple in the packaging. Again, the packaging is very similar to the contour stick with that soft touch matte and then the metallic ring around the bottom. And I like the packaging. This is what the color looks like. And I thought, let's try something different. I've enjoyed more of a cool tone, kind of purpley vibe with blushes, more so than I ever thought. So I figured I'd go for it with this review. That is the shade called Sweet Violet. I'm going to swipe my brush across the top of the product and just get it evenly coated. I'm using that same brush that I used for the contour, and then I'm going to tap on my hand to blend and kind of disperse this a little bit more evenly through the bristles, and then I'm going to do that stippling motion. Okay, it's showing up. It's a little bit sheer, and I think it's just because I removed some of it off on the back of my hand, but I think I'm just going to have to continue building this up. I do like the color. It looks more purple in the tube than it does on, but I think it's nice. It's actually really pretty, and it could be quite flattering to try something a little bit more cool tone. I didn't think that I would like purple blushes, but since I tried the purple blush from the e.l.f. brand, the Camo one in Boldface Lilac, I've really enjoyed using that. And so I decided, you know what, let's just do something different today and go with the purple blush. So I'm going to just take my foundation brush. This is the BK Beauty 101 with whatever was left over from applying my foundation earlier. I'm using the ABH Impeccable foundation today, which is a beautiful foundation. So I have a little bit of that left over, and I'm just going to use that to help clean up and sort of soften this blush because it's actually quite bold. I didn't think it was going to be as intense. Maybe it's just a shade that's a little bit more on the purple side. But the actual texture of this, you can maybe see a little bit when I move my hand how the light shines off of it. And if I feel the texture, it feels very emollient because it's that balmy texture. And it does have quite a bit of a slip to it. So I'm not sure how this is going to wear without pairing a powder blush that's similar in tone over the top. I like to do that method because I feel like that gives me the best longevity. But I think I'm just going to leave it as is and not mess with it anymore. But there is a slip to this formula, just FYI. Now, as far as the blend on the blush stick, I do think that it blended out quite nicely, just like the Contour Balm stick did. But I do feel like it's a little bit kind of lifting in this area, so I try to go back and apply it. And I think it's just because that balminess, it's going to interact with the bottom layers of my makeup and it's going to lift. Just naturally, that's going to happen when you take a balm and you place it over a powder. It's going to lift off the powder. It's not terrible. I think it's something that I can continue to kind of tap and lightly just layer over and just kind of build this up, and maybe start with less product in the future. That might be a good idea for me because I can be quite heavy-handed when it comes to blush. I love blush. I get so excited that I need to just kind of pump the brakes a little bit. But overall, it's not bad. I think I'm more on the I'm impressed and I like it versus it's a complete dislike, if that makes sense. And lastly, for the new CoverGirl products is the Pearl Highlight Balm. And this is one that I'm really excited for. I do like a nice glow and a highlight to the skin, even though I will admit I've kind of skipped highlighter the last week or so, and it just kind of feels so unlike me, but I'm here for it today. This highlighter balm stick comes in 2 shades. I chose Rose Beam. I do like a nice kind of pinky, icy, cool tone highlighter. I think that looks really pretty. That's a tone that I prefer more than something more golden and kind of like yellowy gold. So let's do a swatch of this. Ooh, that's pretty. You see that? Let me do a better swatch. You see that? That's that Rose Beam. I think for this, I'm going to go directly onto the skin and then use a brush to blend it out. So let's go ahead and do a little bit on this side first. Ooh, that's pretty. Whoa, that's intense. You don't want to wear it that boldly. I mean, you could if you wanted to. Don't listen to me. If you like it bold like that, go for it. I'm going to use a brush. This one's a little bit more of an angled brush with some densely packed bristles. And I'm just going to tap and blend this out. Okay, this one is a little bit more challenging to blend. And I'm not getting it to move. And when I look really closely, I can see some really microfine little specks of glitter. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I would personally prefer no glitter in my highlighters. I love glitter on my eyes all day, every day, but on my highlighter, I just want it to be just shimmer, not necessarily specks of like a microfine glitter. And I do appreciate that it's tiny. It would have been much worse had these little specks been larger, and you may not be able to see it. I mean, you can, that is intense. Whoa, okay. I won't be doing that again. I think I'm going to, let's try switching to a different brush, something a little bit fluffier. This is the Sephora Pro Highlighter number 98. And you know what? Let's just go and do that sort of tapping on the product directly and then tapping it on. And I think this will cause me to have to build up a little bit more, but I think I would prefer that than going all in like I did on my right side. Let's just kind of build this up some more. And I think this looks a little bit better. It's much softer, not as intense. This is directly applied. And then this is more diffused and just lightly with a brush. Which side do you prefer? This side or this side? I'm going to take a little bit of that and I'm going to go down the center of the nose. I'm going to tread softly here because my nose does produce oil throughout the day and I tend to not go for very balmy or emollient highlighters in that zone because then you cross that line of is it highlight or is it a lot of oil? So I just avoid it as much as I can. I'm going to pick up a little bit more and just lightly. It won't be as intense as this side, definitely. And let's go ahead and apply some around the temples. Overall, the color is really pretty. I just think I went in, I overdid it. I need to control myself. That's the thing. Control myself with the highlighters. I'm going to take my sponge that's still slightly damp. I'm going to take it on its side that's clean with no product. And I'm going to try to tone this down a little bit and make it a little bit more doable for me. Okay, that's better. I feel like that definitely toned it down and was able to help spread the product. Maybe it's because of a little bit of moisture from my sponge. And I still think I prefer this side here where I took it directly off of the tube and went in a patting motion over the cheekbones. I think that's probably the best for me with this specific formula. I went through my collection and I pulled all of my highlighter sticks that I have from the drugstore brands, and I wanted to do a comparison to see how the new CoverGirl formula compares to some of the other existing ones already on the market. Let's talk how the new CoverGirl Skin Enhancer Highlighter Stick compares to the latest highlighter sticks from L'Oreal. So I reviewed these a while back. These came out, I want to say sometime towards the end of last year. They have two different formulas, the Lay Glow and the Lay Glass. So the Lay Glow is a creamy, typical highlighter formula, and the Lay Glass is that more balmy texture that gives you that sort of wet glass shine look. Those are the swatches of the L'Oreal, and then here's that CoverGirl. Now, if I'm going to feel the formula, the Lay Glass feels very oily, very balmy, and the CoverGirl feels slightly drier compared to that. I feel like, honestly, the CoverGirl does remind me more of the Lay Glow, which is the typical highlighter formula from L'Oreal, which is odd because this is more of like a cream, and then this has that more slip and more balm-like texture. So thinking the names, I thought they were going to be similar, but when you blend out the balm one, it does look wet, almost like if you took a lip balm and put it onto your skin, where I feel like the CoverGirl gives me glow, but it's not quite as balmy and glossy looking. So I feel like the texture, just feeling it, it feels kind of similar to the L'Oreal Lay Glow formula, which is very interesting to see that comparison. The next comparison that I want to do for you is the CoverGirl new highlighter stick with the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Glow Stick. I don't know if this is still available, but for those of you who ended up purchasing this when it launched, when they brought the Jelly Pop Vault collection out several months back, I wanted to compare it, and you can see there's an obvious difference in tone, number one. So the one that's a little bit cooler and brighter is the e.l.f. one. Right next to it is the CoverGirl. And when you compare the formulas, the one from e.l.f. has a much more intense slip to it. When you glide it across your skin, it feels very thin, almost like a water-like consistency. And there is a more kind of wet look to the skin in comparison to that one from CoverGirl. So I would say CoverGirl is a bit of a drier formula than this. This one actually looks and feels very wet. Do you see that? This is the one that's going to give you more of a glazed effect, that glazed donut look, that glass skin. This one gives you that effect more, I think, than the one from L'Oreal, the Lay Glass formula, which is also another interesting comparison. So I wanted to kind of include that for you today. Now you may be asking yourself, how does this CoverGirl stick compare to the Wet n Wild highlighter stick? This is a swatch of the two that I have. This is the CoverGirl, again, from today's video. And then this is the highlighter stick from Wet n Wild. And that highlighter stick is in the shade 800 When the Nude Strikes. And that one, obviously, the shade difference is there. This one is brighter, icier, and cooler. This one has that warmth with that rosiness. This is that new CoverGirl that we reviewed today. The textures, I would say, is similar. I feel like the one from Wet n Wild is just ever so slightly creamier, but I would say this is probably one of the closest ones. This one and the L'Oreal Lay Glow. So I would say these two. If I can get the right one, I always get the L'Oreal ones mixed up. So the Lay Glow and the one from Wet n Wild so far are the ones that are closest to this texture and formula from CoverGirl. But still, even that being said, I think that the CoverGirl is slightly drier than this one from the Wet n Wild brand. So again, I wanted to include that for you there. And the last comparison that I want to include for you today is the highlighter stick from the Hard Candy brand that's available at Walmart. The shade that I have is called Champagne Breakfast. And apart from the packaging being different, the Hard Candy gives you a blending brush on the opposite end. They are a very similar product in the same kind of category. Here is the CoverGirl. And then here is the Hard Candy highlighter. So again, there is an obvious shade difference there. Both give you that very soft kind of pearly look to the skin. And the CoverGirl one does feel very similar to this one from Hard Candy. I would say they have a very similar kind of slip and feel. And if I am kind of being more critical, I think that this one from Hard Candy is probably the absolute closest to what you get from the CoverGirl. So let me just show you a comparison on my finger. Again, so here in this one here is the Hard Candy, and then here is the one from CoverGirl. So very similar in tone. I think that the CoverGirl still has that sort of microfine little specks of glitter that I mentioned earlier during the demo application. That is something that you will not find in a lot of these other comparisons. It's just that one is a little bit different, but the formula does feel quite similar. If there's any sort of difference, maybe a little bit more dryness from CoverGirl. It's not quite as balmy as I thought it would be, as it's included in this sort of stick balm category that's new for the brand. It's not as slippery and greasy as you would think. So I hope that these comparisons and swatches are helpful for you. Now that I finished the rest of my makeup, I do need to do some lip products for the day to kind of pull everything together. So I thought I would include some of the new L'Oreal lip products that are very recent for the brand. I picked up 2 shades of the Plump Ambition Hyaluron Lip Oil. So this is a new product from the brand. I like the packaging and I think that the colors look really beautiful. I chose 2 shades. The first one is the lightest shade, which is shade number 201, Milky New. And I thought this could be like a nice, soft, kind of milky pink shade to use over a lip liner. And then the shade 601, which is called Worth It. And that's what that shade looks like. Really pretty. It seems like a very everyday shade, my lips but better type of color. Now I have not tried this formula yet. I have not read reviews either. I wanted to share my first impressions with you on camera, so let's go ahead and do some lip swatches, and then we'll determine if we want to pair this with a lip liner. The description of this new lip product from L'Oreal on the Ulta app says that you get glass-like shine with L'Oreal Plump Ambition Hyaluron Lip Oil, 24-hour care with hyaluronic acid for instantly plump, smooth lips infused with skin-loving ingredients. It has a cushiony pillow applicator with massaging beads, which looks very interesting. If you look at the photos, you'll see that. Different, something to put a spin on a classic doe foot applicator. Available in 10 shades, volumizing glass-like shine in a lightweight, non-sticky formula. So that all sounds good, so let's go ahead and swatch them. So here we go. Let's do shade 201. Ooh, that feels nice. Feels very cushiony, very thick, very nourishing. And the point is perfect for getting around the edge of your lip line. And this is the shade 201 Milky New. And as you can see, based off of the packaging and application, there is no color to this. It kind of comes off a little bit clear. There's a hint of a milkiness to it because it's not quite clear, but it doesn't really translate on the lips. And as it's sitting on my lips and I'm talking, I feel a little bit of a tingling sensation. It's right now kind of like a cooling / tingle. Nothing painful, nothing that I would want to remove this immediately. I don't like anything that stings and burns. So I like that this doesn't have a stinging effect just yet. So let me just kind of let this hang out for a little bit and see what happens if this intensifies. So I pulled up the description again on the Ulta app, and I don't really see where this is supposed to give you any sort of sensation on the lips. It's a volumizing glass-like shine, and the pillow applicator is listed there under the features. It also says Plump Ambition. Set your plump ambition higher with L'Oreal Paris new volumizing lip oil. So the volumizing lip oil, I don't see where it says that it's supposed to tingle, it's supposed to feel like a sting or burn. Nothing is stated on the description. So I'm honestly shocked. And you would think with hyaluronic acid, that's the sort of plumping, because it says hyaluronic acid for instantly plumped, smooth lips. Nothing in the description says that this is supposed to feel cooling, minty, burn, sting, nothing of the sort. But with all that being said, so far, this feels like a bit of a cooling sensation. It doesn't feel like it burns. It doesn't feel like it stings. So let's go ahead and take this off and go in with the next shade, which is 601 Worth It. Maybe there you can see the massaging beads on the applicator better with this darker shade than the first one that I showed you. Oh yeah, this is pretty. So pretty. Look at that. Shade 601 Worth It. This color is so pretty. It gives a hint of color to the lips, where honestly I could wear this just on its own without needing a lip liner, without putting a lipstick underneath. It's a really nice everyday my lips but better type of shade, and I just love this color. Now again, when I put this on, you can kind of start to feel a bit of a cooling sort of minty sensation, but I will have to say that when I used my napkin to remove the first shade, I did feel a little bit more of a kind of sting as I was taking the product off my lips, and a little bit left over once I removed it. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a product that sort of plumps and gives you that continuous plumping feeling after it wears off. Again, the description doesn't really say any of that in the Ulta site, so I'm not quite sure if that's the case, but it's something to note that that's kind of what I felt sensation-wise on my lips. And as I'm talking, I do feel just a little bit more of a tingle with this shade than the first one, maybe because I've had this 601 on a little longer. But I still think that the formula is very glossy, very shiny, very cushiony. It fills in the lines of the lips, and it feels very luxurious. I love the way this feels. The thing about this formula that I don't quite enjoy as much is that sort of cooling, tingling, slight borderline stingy feel. It doesn't feel painful. I'm not a baby. I can handle this. But I just wish that they wouldn't have done that. I just wanted that gloss, this color specifically. Give me the hyaluronic acid, give me the skincare, but just take out that tingly sensation, and that would be like the most perfect gloss at the drugstore, in my opinion. Now, I'm not sure if my mind is playing tricks on me because I want to think that this is going to actually do something with plumping on my lips, but I do feel like it's kind of smoothed out the lines a little bit, and maybe it's done just a little bit of plumping. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I should have done it before and after to see, but I still love this color. Honestly, it's just so pretty. I removed the lip oil from L'Oreal, and I wanted to pair that same color with one of their lip liners. So they did come out with some new lip liners a couple months back in the shade Worth It and Worth It Medium, shade 601 and 635. So these are the anti-feathering lip liner formulas, which I think are pretty great from the drugstore. They stay on, they don't migrate, they stay right exactly where you put them, and they don't feather out of your lip line, which is super important. And I'm going to go with the shade called Worth It, which is 601, same number as the gloss. And I'm going to line my lips first with this, and then we'll put the gloss back on top. And here is the Worth It lip liner with the Worth It lip oil together. And I've got to say, I absolutely love the way this looks. I love this color. This is so me. I can wear this every single day, and I think I'm just going to kind of get over that sort of cooling and tingling sensation that kind of caught me off guard because it's not listed in the description. Because I love this shade so much, I'm going to keep using it. I think it looks beautiful. It's plumping, it's cooling, but it fills in the lips and the lines. It makes them plumper. It has that intense glass-like shine, and I think this is a winner for me. This specific shade is just perfection. And here is the final look for today's makeup. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed the review of the new CoverGirl sticks and how they compare to some other ones on the market, and the swatches of the lip oils from L'Oreal. I actually have to say that I'm impressed with pretty much everything. I would say, from going back to the CoverGirl brand, I think that the highlighter stick was the one that gave me the most challenge for blending, which I thought was going to be the easiest one going into this. I thought a balmy highlight, how hard can that be to blend? But it was just a little bit drier than I thought, and there's just a little bit more finessing with it, and it comes down to application and the tool that you use. The contour blended out nicely with the brush that I typically go for, which is the e.l.f. Dual Complexion Brush. And then the blush one, I felt like it kind of lifted in some areas, but I still was able to get a blend, and it still is quite pigmented. And as you can still see, it is still there. And it does feel just a little balmy. Not too much where I would want to set this, but just know that there is going to be just a subtle hint of a balmy kind of texture and feel on the surface of your skin. Now for these L'Oreal lip oils, just know that it's not a classic lip oil formula. There is some thickness and richness to the formula, very nourishing, and it feels comfortable, like the thickness of it. But just know that there is going to be a sensation that goes along with this formula when you put this on. Now, I was thinking of my collection of some other kind of plumping glosses. Even though these are specifically lip oils from L'Oreal, CoverGirl does have the Yummy Plumper Gloss, and these are a no for me. I have two shades that I reviewed a while back. The shade Pixie Dust is really pretty. It's like a pink with a duochrome shift to blue. And then the shade Encourage Mint, it actually ended up being a lot more intense in color in person versus what it looked like online. And the formula, there is some inconsistencies. This one doesn't sting as much. It's kind of cooling, very pleasant. So I would use this one again. This one actually burned to where I had to remove it, and I have not used this since then. This is an absolute no for me. I don't know if it's just this color or if it's the whole range, because this one wasn't as bad. But if you're looking for something that has more of an intense sting and more tingle, then maybe check out the ones from CoverGirl. The original Yummy Gloss formula is actually really nice, very comfortable. But out of the two, I think I still prefer the L'Oreal, even though these are marketed as a lip oil. I kind of look at it as more of a gloss because of the way it feels and the way it looks on the lips. And I would prefer these over this Yummy Plumping gloss from CoverGirl. So I just wanted to put my thoughts and opinions out there. Hopefully this was helpful, these comparisons and these demo applications. Let me know what you think of the video. Are you trying these out? If you have already, please let me know what your thoughts are. Are you picking any of these up based off of today's video? Everything will be listed and linked for you in the description box. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And you can follow me on Instagram. I do post there periodically. My username pops up here on the screen. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.